Thank you.
Okay, then. So all in favor of that motion? Any opposed? Seeing none, that carries unanimously. Okay, and now we have a number of deputations, and the award for the longest waiting deputant today goes to Miguel Avila, because we're finally at item number 10, agreement with Toronto Community Housing Corporation regarding special constables. And Miguel, I have you first to submit in person.
What's that?
Happy New Year.
Happy New Year.
Congratulations, for your appointment as chair, and to Kris Langenfeld as vice chair. So, on the letter of the city solicitor, there are some terms and conditions to the agreement. I'm here to make two friendly recommendations. Number one, historically, there's an issue with regards to investigations into complaints of CSU officers. So my recommendation is that on a trial basis, CSU officers are equipped with body-worn cameras to address the issue of complaints. That will save a lot of money to the city. I see Stephen Kerr, he's the liaison for the Special Constables. Maybe he want to talk to me after. And the second recommendation I am making is to request the proper equipment of the CSU investigators when it comes to complex noise residential complaints. For that, I have a video that I have submitted to Diana. If Diana will do the favor to play it, please. Thank you. Uh-oh. I'm sure there's audio.
Are we able to get the audio?
Can you hold the time, please? I think there's a technical problem.
I'm going to have to get used to the fact that I don't have control of the clock. I'll keep it in mind, though, don't worry.
Yeah, it's just not connected.
There you go.
Hey everyone, let's talk about something important. Peace and quiet, it's something we all deserve, right? Being able to relax at home shouldn't be a luxury, but sometimes noisy neighbors can make it really hard to enjoy our own space. Loud music, barking dogs, late night parties. It can be super frustrating, especially when you feel like you can't prove how bad it is. That's where Noise Nuisance Recorder comes in. This handy gadget helps you gather the proof you need to finally get some peace. It's tough when you tell your neighbor their noise is too loud and they say it's not. It's your word against theirs. That's why this recorder is so helpful. It gives you actual evidence. Think of this noise nuisance recorder as your secret weapon against noise. This little device accurately measures how loud the sound is and even records it. No more just saying, it's too loud. Now you have real data to back you up. And don't worry, it's super easy to use, even if you're not a tech whiz. It has a clear screen that shows you exactly how loud the noise is and a built-in microphone that captures the sound. You can even set it to start recording automatically when the noise gets too loud. Using the noise nuisance recorder is as easy as 1, 2, 3. First, put it in the spot where the noise bothers you most, like your bedroom, if the noise is keeping you up at night. Make sure it's plugged in. Next, you'll need to calibrate it. Don't worry, it comes with a simple tool to help you do that so you get accurate readings. Once that's done, just start the recording. The recorder will keep track of the noise levels, and if things get really loud, Use the remote control to record the actual noise. That's your proof. After you're done recording, you can download everything to your computer using the special software that comes with it. The noise nuisance recorder is good for everyone, from people living in apartments to the city officials who handle noise complaints. If you're dealing with noisy neighbors, the recorder gives you a way to show exactly what's happening. It helps housing providers in spending thousands of dollars in equipment repair, such as pipes, radiators, or other equipment, and this is the extent of their accountability. This can help make a formal complaint to the city. Since September 27, 2024, I've been awakened by 2 residents at 220 Oak Street, one above me and one below me. Both are awakened during the night, doing their life. During the night, I'm an old man with physical and mental disabilities, a normal day person who works in the morning, has a daily routine, and all he wants is to sleep at night. My landlord won't do the right thing to move me out of this unit, arguing that is not an issue, that pipes and radiators makes noises at night as their valid explanation. And for the city, the recorder gives them the facts they need to make fair decisions because of challenges. Having paid staff sitting into wait, listening to the banging noises is not feasible. I've also been denied a transfer 2 times, and this noise nuisance recorder will be my evidence in helping me get a transfer. No more guessing. This means faster solutions and more peaceful neighborhoods for everyone. Remember, everyone deserves to live in a quiet and peaceful place. The noise nuisance recorder helps make that happen.
On my deputation,
Okay, so you
that
got
I
about a
submit-
minute to address that video.
Yes. So I submitted my deputation. I make all the important points about the nuisance recorder, what it's all about. The City of Toronto Noise Complaint Division has access to this machine right now. They're in the process of training their officers on the use of it. I think it will be a valuable tool for investigators that are receiving noise complaints at TCHC buildings to make accurate determinations, and for properties management to also to address the issue accordingly. No more wasting of time, no more guessing, no more coming 2 hours later after the noise, because what happens is it's intermittent. And I hope you can solve my problem, because this is me. I'm sleeping in the hallway outside my unit. Sometimes I had to sleep in the basement of my building, and it shouldn't be that way. And by the way, that machine only costs $9,000. That's it.
Thank you. Are there any questions for the deputy? Councillor Chang.
I'm very impressed with your video, by the way. I'm wondering if you have connected with a woman named Ingrid Boudet of No More Noise Toronto. She has devices. She is very open to helping to deploy some of her devices to track data, and maybe you can get some support for this data from her.
Yes, I know who you are speaking about. I know that activist, and knows that this is. I'm facing this battle myself right now. Yes. But I would like to see if TCHC and the TPS, as the agency that certified the TCHC Special Constables, properly equip the CSU officers, because currently they're not equipped with this kind of devices.
So I will be directing some of your questions after, but to you, I also wanted to know, have you gotten any support from city bylaw enforcement? Because sometimes they will do late night or early morning measurements. They try to shift the working shift to accommodate that, and and then they can measure if there's an infraction. Have you been able to get that to happen?
Yes, I have spoken with the manager, and he told me that unfortunately, due to budget constraints, they don't have staff between the hours of 2 a.m. to 6 a.m. So the absence of staff of municipal licensed standards officers during those times is pivotal to ensure that they are able to have a tool that they can use when nobody's on duty. Right. So I think I mentioned this during my conversation during the budget talks, if we can transfer some members of TPS to become MLSA officers to cover that gap from 2 a.m. to 6 a.m. Because they said, we can't come to your building, Miguel, and currently it's not the landlord obligation to call 311. It's up to the resident to make the heavy work to call and to approach 311, which I have done it. And they said, Miguel, the only way we can address your problem is that we set up this device in your unit when we are not able to come to you between 2 and 6, because the sounds happens between 2 and 6 in the morning. And I've been experiencing this since September 27, 2024. And I'm exhausted. My mental health is bad. So yeah, I need peace and I need sleep. Thank you.
I'm sorry that you're experiencing that, and yeah, I will direct some questions, and let's see what we can make.
And I'm sure this device will help a lot to address other complaints in TCHC or private market.
Okay. Thanks, Miguel.
You're very welcome. Trying to build one city at a time.
Yeah. Before we go to questions, though, I have one other in person, but it's Derek Moran, who I still don't see, and I don't think pardon? Oh, right. Derek's not virtual either? Okay. Then we're moving on to Mr. Langenfeld. Mr. Langenfeld is with us virtually.
All right. Thank you,
Hey.
Chair Carroll. And I'll try and share my screen here again. Okay, so the first point, this comes in the agenda here in a letter from City Councillor Wendy Wahlberg, and I'll get back to that in a second. But when we look at the Morden report, and that's mentioned over a dozen times in this month's agenda and was discussed on several occasions, and recommendation 3 of that report is that the board should have its own counsel whose legal services are not available to either the police service or the city. And obviously, the city solicitor is available to the City of Toronto. So the problem here is that you, in fact, there isn't even a cover letter for this City of Toronto letter in your agenda from someone on the board, and there's no indication that the board got any independent legal review of this. Looking at what's actually in the agreement, I start with a shout out for Derek. I don't know if he read this part of the agenda, but one of the things he raised back with Jim Hart and perhaps even Andy Pringle was includes and including, and the definition of that, and whether includes means as he found in one legal definition, or so for him a shout out that this is actually incorporated in some city law. Meanwhile, looking at the definition here for TCHC property, as I mentioned with the police cars, that the property belongs to the board. Here, TCHC's property doesn't belong to the city, but to TCHC. Meanwhile, looking on to item 7.6, I think this is an indication of why you need a separate legal or an independent legal review of this. I don't even think that sentence makes sense. So I invite somebody to actually figure out how that, or the procedural requirements of the CSPA fits in with CSU Special Constable has been designated. Elsewhere, we look here at section 10.6, and it talks about TCHC and the service reviewing the TCHC's policies in relation to CSPA and the requirements there, but it doesn't have anywhere here that I see anywhere in the agreement talking about whether somebody is actually reviewing whether TCHC's rules comply with TPSP policy or with TPS procedures. And so, again, that is something that I think your lawyer representing the board, as opposed to the city's lawyer representing the city, would potentially find other things. And so that's based on me having a quick review, and there are other errors in there as well. So I think it certainly needs to be looked at further, and you should be getting a separate review. Meanwhile, I just wanted to wish you all a Happy New Year. I meant to do that at the beginning, and thank you to former Chair Morgan and former Vice Chair Kostakis, and congratulations to Chair Carroll and Vice Chair Brillinger. Thank you.
Okay. And then there's a written submission from Nicole Corrado as well. Are there any questions on the report? Councillor Chang.
I just wanted to support the deputation from Miguel and just ask about the noise enforcement piece, because this is something that's always been challenging when there's something late at night. And I know oftentimes it is 311, it is our MLS that's doing noise enforcement, but in a late night party, if the MLS is not available, sometimes police do step in. But in terms of measuring sound, is that something even that TPS gets involved with at all? Are you actually taking in measurements to enforce sound?
So, Chair, I'll answer that actually by covering both points. I would encourage MLS to expand their working hours. I'd encourage MLS to increase their staff. We're responding to gun crimes, home invasions, and robberies. Noise complaints will fall very low on that triaging scale. We are struggling to get to her priority 1 and 2 calls. So I'm only adding a dose of operational constraints that we operate under. And we've been specifically asked to get out of some of this work because it is not the best use of a Toronto police officer. Having said that, there's a lot of questions I'd have from a legal perspective on this tool that was presented. There's a number of legal challenges that I'd want to have explained, given that there's interceptions of communication potential and other violations that would put our officers in operational legal jeopardy and may very well be completely illegal for the Toronto Police to participate in. I would also issue a word of caution to our community housing folks taking this on without good legal advice on the tool that's proposed, given some of the issues that may exist as the tool was explained here today. And of course, without seeing it in operation, I can't say the legal issues, but I'm very cautious that there's some legal challenges here as it relates to the interceptions of communications, which we will not participate in. And I'd suggest community housing would want to get independent legal advice on.
Thank you. And my next question is just about the second deputation, about the legal representation piece. I don't know if our executive director has some thoughts about what was shared. Are there any concerns about the concerns that were raised?
Sorry, concerns about?
That the board needs independent legal advice that does not represent the city or the police service.
The board receives its legal advice through the city's legal services. We have with us Jane Burton, who could maybe speak to this.
Through the chair, Councillor, there is a history to those comments, and so I can ask the executive director to get a report for you that the board approved post-mortem that sets out that approved a service level agreement between the board and City of Toronto Legal Services, and that addresses conflict issue. There's provisions in there to deal with that, and so. That sentence is in the Morden report, but I can assure you it was dealt with at the board at that time, and we have processes in place through the City Solicitor's Office to deal with it.
Great, thank you.
Are there any other questions? Member Morley.
Thank you, Madam Chair. Just a quick one, and it's actually going back to a previous deputation from Miguel on the constables, special constables at TCHC, and just more so with respect to sort of the complaints and oversight process. My recollection from our conversation at that time was that that's really not something that we look at or touch at all. We are responsible for approving the status as a constable, but in terms of that oversight or the appropriate avenue for residents if they have concerns or complaints about the constables, where does that live, and is there any updates through this agreement that would be helpful to share for members of the public?
Thank you, Councillor Morley. Our service oversees the complaint process in compliance with CSPA, so they will follow our timelines. They have the training. It comes back and is monitored through us. They do the investigations, but we'll oversee the outcome of that.
Yes.
So
we also provide the training as well.
Right, training as well. So, yeah, I know when we first discussed it, I think it was early days of the CSPA. So I think there's a little bit of an update there that I'm hearing, that there is more of a role for us and the service to be playing around the oversight. So just want to reassure members of the public that we're continuing to ensure there's processes and procedures in place that are appropriate. Thank you so much.
One of the challenges they were having was meeting certain deadlines, timelines that are prescribed within the legislation, and we're helping them through that to make sure that they're compliant.
If I can just add on that, there are changes in the CSPA with regards to the relationship between external employers of special constables, but that does not apply to complaints. And the changes mainly have to do with the requirement to ensure that the employer has all the needed certification to be a special constable employer. So that's where our oversight comes in, less so on the actual conduct and behavior of special constables.
Thank you. And that oversight in terms of the conduct in those pieces lives with?
I believe with LECA, if I'm not mistaken.
That was my understanding, or TCHC. Again, just as we are, this is a newer thing that we're sort of socializing and getting used to. I do think as we empower residents to, make the right call and to know who to go to when they need support, or if something is not going the way it's meant to, that they know where to go. So we'll continue to massage that, and I think sharing that messaging publicly is helpful.
Okay. Are there any other questions? Okay. I just want to make one comment, and especially because Mr. Avila is still here. I really want to thank the chief for really providing that deeper explanation that we get a growing number of requests in our deliberations at council and our bylaw committee. Well, we're just going to have to send this over to the police because they're on 24 hours. But we would naturally have to prioritize those calls. And so it really isn't the solution. The final frontier really is contemplating 24-hour MLS bylaw officers. And increasingly, noise isn't the only reason why we really need to figure out how we're going to do that at the city. We have the luxury of figuring that out on a cost recovery basis. That's possible, but I think we really do have to, because to handle it here means with noise cameras you would be handling a whole different kind of evidence, and this isn't a matter actually for the courts. It's a bylaw and fine issue, and so for you to have to manage that evidence doesn't make a lot of sense. But I take the deputation that these problems are so unsolvable that it is showing up in this room, because we do have to figure it out from a municipal licensing and standards perspective. And it's not just, it's another kind of noise, but I've had this situation of, because they're trying to meet a deadline, we got a voicemail that was there when we got there in the morning that one condo developer was in there welding and fixed the skilled trades inside, trying to finish a building that is at 33 stories minimum separation distance from the next tower, which was already occupied. And There's no one to call at 3, it was 3 a.m. and they were in there welding and drilling and all the rest of it. And I represent a suburban ward, so I'm pretty sure that's probably happening on the regular in the wards of our colleagues downtown. And so this is an ongoing conversation, how we're going to handle that 24/7 requirement of a dense community. That being said, those are all the deputations, and what remains is to approve the recommendation for this report. Member Morley, seconded by Member Kostakis. All in favor? Opposed? That is carried unanimously. Okay, and we already released the investigative reports, so I'm looking for a motion to adjourn. It's Lisa's favorite motion, obviously, seconded by Vice Chair Brillinger. Thank you. Oh, sorry. Sorry, next meeting, and Diana did remind me just 5 minutes ago, the next meeting is March 4th, for your knowledge and the public's. March 4th, 2025.
Thank you, Madam Chair.